So welcome everybody, this is the SUPboarder review of the 2019 Naish Maliko. This is the 24 wide, 14 foot long version. They also make it 14 foot in a 26 wide and a 28 wide. And also they've got a few sizes in the 12.6 range too. But most people are really looking around the sort of 14 foot boards now. And that is what we're going to be covering in this video. So now in the Naish race range, they only make one style of board, and that is the Maliko. This is their all-round race. You can use it on flat water, open water, downwinding. This is the board they've put all of their work in towards. Specifications for this one in particular: 14 foot long, 24 inches wide. It's 244 litres in volume. It weighs 12.8 kilograms. It comes as standard with a single US center fin, and the fin size is an 8.75 inch fin, and it retails at £2,399. So Naish have changed the look and the construction of their boards this year. All EPS foam cores, as you'll find on all boards, then multiple layers of glass. There's a wood laminate layer underneath the standing area. Carbon, there's a unidirectional carbon stringer going underneath the board that's over 3/4 of the length of the board. And it's finished off, all the Naishes are finished off with a sort of outer PVC coating. Gives them a sort of different sort of feel to a standard epoxy board. Definitely, it looks like it offers a lot more sort of impact resistance, and it's sort of something that we've really noticed, and it does stand out quite well in the 2019 Naish range. So it's definitely a new look for 2019, but the styling and the design has really evolved from the older Malikos 2016, 17, 18, and they've really just refined a lot of their design work into the 2019 range. As far as the look and styling of the board, definitely going for a lot of shine and bling this year. Really high sort of gloss, sort of lacquer finish around the board. It does make it really stand out, and it looks quite snazzy and special on and off the water. You will notice that the high gloss finish is only on the top and the rails, and the bottom of the board is still with the sort of traditional matte finish. Now remember, a lot of brands, probably 95-97% will have a matte finish on the bottom of the boards. It goes back to a long time of sailing, windsurfing, all sorts of history, where you either have shiny bottoms, really high gloss shine on the bottom of your board or boat, or you have a sort of matte finish. Now that's really a conversation for a whole new video. Maybe we'll get Bryce Dyer to talk about matte and shiny bottoms. It might be quite an interesting one. Looking at the outline template, it hasn't changed that much in the outline shape from pretty much 2018. Still very slender, drawn out looking board. The width is kept quite, you know, into the midsection. You've got 3 or 4 feet of about 24 inches, which is the width here, and then it narrows down into the tail slightly, and giving you a nice reduced tail width, obviously to produce less drag and to be faster through the water. The deck shape and the top of the board is definitely more refined than last year. Subtle nose difference up at the nose there. You can see a V, flattens off before the deck. Then you have a slightly recessed deck with a full EVA deck pad going to right towards the tail. Then you've got your deep recessed carry handle that Naish have, all super comfy. The way that they finished off the board, the back of the board, and with EVA pad does mean that you have a nice big flat open area to sort of walk around if you're doing downwind paddling, riding open swells. So you've got a lot of footwork you can get forward and back, and you don't really trip over it. There's no handles to trip over it or any other sort of drainage holes that you might get your toes caught in. So it's a very smooth, crisp looking finish to the mid whole part of the board really. Looking at the bottom of the board, you can't see anything really sort of in your face. It's very subtle design elements here. So rails slightly beveled off, nice soft rails at the front. Again, they don't catch when you're paddling downwind or you want to trim and change direction, especially in downwind situations. If the nose is going underwater, they don't sort of pull you off and roll you around. So they're very easy to change direction even when the nose is underwater, we found, which is a really good thing about that. Moving the straight edge back, you've got a slight V sort of coming up in the center, but again, very, very slight. Rails are still relatively soft at the midpoint here. And then moving towards the tail, pretty much where the red line is, there's sort of an orange red line split here. Where the red line is, the rails really start to sharpen up quite dramatically towards the tail, and obviously that sharp edge rail is going to release the water quicker at the back of the board, and the board is pretty much as flat as it can be straight towards the back. The 8.75 inch fin from Naish is a bit more upright than other fins on the market, a slightly wider base. Because of that, it does make it very easy to paddle and track the board in a straight line, but it means you can still change direction really well when you get yourself back on the tail in that sort of downwind surfing situation. So a nice overall 8.75 inch fin. So throughout the whole of the board, from the nose to the tail, they've kept the design very simple. Small amount of V just to spread the water from off the rail to rail. They haven't gone for like big concaves like a lot of other brands are doing at the moment. Very subtle tweaks and a smooth, pretty much flat tail piece, which is then designed obviously to get the water off the back of the board as quick as possible. Now the proof to all that is really what does it paddle like on the water. So Naish have been working on this board year after year, and to be honest, this board does feel better than the previous Malikos for sure. It feels incredibly quick to go between paddle stroke and paddle stroke. So what I mean by that is there doesn't seem to be any lag between when you put your paddle in and then you take your paddle out to your next paddle stroke. It just seems to does effortlessly glide from one stroke to another. Is that to do with the simpleness of the bottom at the back here, the back shape? Is that to do with the rails very crisp at the tail, releasing the water fast? Or is it to do with the rounded nose at the entry? It's probably due to all of those things, but definitely it feels like it has a lot of glide for its design. Is it the quickest board that we've tested? Well, to be honest, the test window we didn't have perfect conditions to test our sprint. We couldn't do a 100-meter sprint test, which we do with all our race boards, because we had a lot of wind every day and we had a lot of tide to contend with as well. So we can't really give it a fair stab to say if it was faster or slower than a certain board. But to give you a rough idea of speed, when we did a GeoSUP loop around our sort of normal paddling area, we did find a flat water non-tidal bit to do a little sprint test, and we got a top speed of 8.34 miles an hour. To give you an idea about what that compares like to another board, the Starboard All-Star we did in the full 100-meter sprint test in the perfect environment got 8.32. So you're very close on speed there. Again, don't hold us to those results, that's just what we've noticed, and when we did the 100-meter test we couldn't do it officially on this because we didn't have the perfect conditions. So that's the overall speed, but really this board, the magic of this board is picking up bumps. We took it on a sort of closed estuary downwind. It was a fairly windy day, so we couldn't really get, and the directions weren't allowing us to get out into open sea, so we only had maybe a foot and a half of chop. This board will pick up everything, and the big thing about that when you're running and downwinding in short sharp swell like that is maybe your swell pattern is like 4 or 5 feet apart, so it really pushes the nose designs of these boards when you're riding in those conditions to the max. This nose has an amazing way of just holding there. It doesn't sink really low. It seems to get a very thin film of water over pretty much most of the nose, almost back to the Maliko sort of graphics there, and it just sort of holds there and it just sucks itself along and keeps going on to the next wave and linking up from there on. A few paddle strokes and you're on again. So it really performs well in the sort of smaller moderate swell of chop. I can't see a problem that it's not going to perform really well in the bigger swell, more open sea swells, and definitely having the sharper rails at the tail there and the soft edges at the front, it's very easy to get out and turn and redirect your speed and direction when you're going down waves and chop. So it's going to be a very good downwind board and a very good racing board if you're paddling in sort of open seas, slightly choppy rivers and estuaries as well. So do we think this will best suit for ability right away and actually what you want to use it for? Well, ability, you're definitely going to have to be an intermediate to advanced style paddler to get a lot out of it in lots of different conditions. What I mean by that is if you're going to be paddling a 24, 26 wide board, maybe you're 80 kilos, 85 kilos, and you want to start doing step back turns, maybe the water's a bit choppier, you're going to have to work on a little bit about your footwork. It is okay to do step back turns on because there's not much shape at the back of the board underneath, it's pretty much flat. You have got to concentrate a little bit with your footwork. It's not as easy to do step back turns as other boards on the market, maybe with bigger concaves that sort of hold the water in the center of the board under your feet. Weight wise, well, obviously you can be a super lightweight rider, but the super lightweight riders might actually want a board that's a bit narrower than this. You know, we've done a lot of features on SUPboard about talking about narrow boards lately. Well, 24 wide is narrow, but it's not that narrow if you're 70 kilos or something like that or less. You're going to need a narrow board like that if you really want to compete up against the top in your race club or in your regional events. Maximum weight wise, yeah, it recommends up to 85 kilograms, but really probably an 80 kilo rider would be happy on a 24 wide board, and then maybe if you're 85, 90 kilos, 26, and then go up again to the 28. Usage wise, it's very happy in flat water. You're going to be as quick as other rival boards out there, maybe not as quick as purpose-built flat water boards, but more brands are sort of tailing away from that sort of purpose-built flat water stuff, and they're making a bit more all-round based boards now. Open water, estuary, chop, river runs, anything downwind involving chop or surfing, board works really well. Great nose shape, just pulls you through every bump and links up all those waves together. So pros and cons and value for money. Pros, the shape is absolutely spot on for an intermediate advanced paddler that wants to get a lot out of racing, paddling fast, catching some great waves. Really like the subtle shape, really like the subtle design of the board, and it just feels really fast and smooth when you're paddling it. Cons, well, this is a strip back board. What I mean by that is, where are the carry handles? Where are the carry handles for your beaching, your BOP style racing? Where is the kicker at the back of the board? The board's 14 foot long, step back turns. Personally, even I would like to have a kick back there. I needed as much help as I could to know where my feet were on the back of the board, maybe a change in the deck pad grip so I could feel the difference in the pad. EVA pad is great, really comfy, but love to have something at the back of the board there. Why isn't there one? Other thing, it did hold a little bit of water around the standing area. They haven't got any drainage holes there, obviously, because that's going to bring up the weight and make the hydrodynamics on the board not as good, but that's something that you are going to have to be aware of. It does hold a little bit of water, a little bit in the standing area. And value for money, well, £2,399 for the Naish Carbon. They don't do any other construction on this board. They say this is it. If you want to win a race, this is what you have to pay, and this is the board you want. And it's sort of like that what we think too. If you're really committed and you want to get the most out of your racing career and try and get on the podiums as much as possible, you probably are going to have to put your hand in your pocket and pay that sort of 2,300 price point tag for most of the performance top end boards that are on the market. You could go down the second hand route, of course, but if you want the leading edge, the top of the range, up to date, that is the sort of price point you're going to have to pay, unfortunately. So I hope you found that SUPboarder review interesting and informative, and it's helped you understand if the Naish Maliko 2019 14 foot by 24 is the board for you. Remember to check out SUPboarder Pro, where we're going to be doing this video, but we're going to talk a bit more about the other boards that a lot of you are asking us on email and to compare it to, because there's a lot of choice out there now for a SUP racer out there wanting a performance based all-round board. So check that video out if you want more information on that. Otherwise, we'll see you on SUPboarder or on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching.